like interacted with Substack, and I'm realizing today that I 1000% should be because
It's
it's so
fun.
cool.
Yeah, Substack is one of my favorites for sure. The tools are super easy. The people on the platform are really cool. If you're like writing anything, it's folks love to follow that and learn. We're just talking about how much we love Substack as
Yeah,
as the audience is filtering. Elizabeth Booker Houston is in the house. Booker, what's going
welcome.
on? So I'm here with Kyle Fraser, who is the winner of Survivor season 48, right?
Yeah, 48, 48.
Okay, so the tea is I have never watched Survivor, but I have watched The Traitors. So I feel like I am like akin to your game. Like I know a little bit about Survivor simply by how the folks from Survivor play traitors. What is it that you love about Survivor?
Yeah, I think I'm an attorney. I pretended not to be an attorney on Survivor, which definitely worked for me, but I'm an attorney. My wife is an attorney. I do music law, she does civil rights stuff, and like all of our friends in New York are attorneys. So like I kind of wanted to just get away
Yeah,
and sort of be around a bunch of different people, which I think is really kind of the answer is that I think one, the game has so many different aspects about it because there's physical elements, you're competing, there's like the survival stuff. But what really draws me is the social element. Not only like, do you need a social game and you need to be deceptive and things like that, but you actually, I think, to win and like be a good survivor player, get to know people. Or at least
yeah.
that's how I felt about it. And
Mhm.
so, kind of getting away from my everyday sort of community, which I obviously love, but having a chance to meet tons of different people who are just doing wildly different shit is exactly what I wanted.
See, I'm so scared of everything. I feel like I would be good at the game if there was like a pseudo micro internet celebrity version of Survivor and the challenges weren't so physically hard. I feel like I could swing it. But it must be interesting to be building genuine relationships based on vulnerability and partnership with people while you are kind of actively also lying to them a little bit because it's part of the game. Like, how do you balance that in your mind?
Yeah, it's a complete mind fuck. I'll
It's
be
got to
honest.
be.
Like I was my first season, so I'm on season 50, which airs in 2 weeks too. So we'll
Yes.
have to see how that plays out. On my first season, it's a crazy thing because you develop these insane bonds with people so quick. I
Yeah.
kind of kept making the joke that like island time, one day feels like 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
you're hearing everything about these people and learning about them. And like you do have close bonds with some people you're planning on not screwing over at some
Yeah.
points of the game, but eventually you have to. And
Yeah.
so it's really tough. I mean, I think that like I tried my best to toe a line of like keeping some sort of morality while playing the game hard. And then towards the end of the game, you start to think about your own family and the people you have commitments to back home. So that's a whole nother factor. Like if I'm not playing my hardest out here, I'm like, why am I showing my allegiances more to someone who I just met instead of my fiance, now wife, back home? So it's crazy, but I think that's like what makes the game so cool and sadistic at the same time.
It is a crazy game, and, like, being friends with Eliza Orlins, who's also a survivor,
Yeah.
and I think Eliza is one of the most truthful, straight shooting, like, legit, trust her with my life people, and I'm like, "Girl, you were on Survivor, like, how did you game people? You're so nice, and you're so smart," but it's just it's like the contract you make at the beginning of the thing, like, this is gonna be a game. Were there any moments that were especially challenging for you? Like, what were you learning about yourself through the process of playing this game?
Yeah, it was weird. I think that when I when I went to law school, I've always been like very easygoing, not that serious of a guy, quote unquote. Like I've always just sort of found like lightheartedness into most of the things that I do. And I think that that was sort of starting to change after like in law school, or maybe a little bit after. I was like not taking myself too seriously, but
Yes.
started to just take everything I was doing too seriously. And I just got slapped in the face when I got to Survivor because your ego is just challenged in so many different ways. I
Right.
think like realizing that like I'm not that guy in some respects and like maybe I am over here, but like right now, like this is like I'm out of my element. I think that was tough. And I think going back to what we were talking about, just honestly, I mean, there were some decisions towards the end of the game where I was in alliances with two different groups and I was kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And I it came to a head and I had to like end up sending my number one ally into like fire making, which essentially ended her game at that time. And, like,
Mhm.
that, like, was one of the worst experiences I've ever had because at the same time, I was also hurting another friend of mine. It's just a lot. It was just
It's
a
a
lot.
lot.
But I think I learned to kind of, like, find the lightheartedness in it and not take myself so seriously and just chill out a little bit again too.
Would you do the traders? Like, obviously, you're doing another season of Survivor, so, like, do you have, like, a little game bug now where you're like, "I think I could slay in these games?"
Yeah, I love playing games. Like, I don't know if I can, like I don't know if I could do something right now because, like, I
Yeah,
just in the past year and a half, I've been gone basically both summers. So I don't know
yeah.
if I could go do something
Wifey
just
said,
now.
"No, you gotta be home now."
Yeah, but, like, the game itself, I think, is super interesting. Survivor will always be my number 1 game, that's just the way it is, but I think that there is, like, another layer to traders and, like, what it's like to be a faithful and how much of a mind fuck that must be, but no, I think it's cool, and my wife and I are expecting a baby too, so,
Congratulations! Yeah, so you'll have to be home for the baby
yeah,
time.
yeah,
That's gonna be
exactly.
a game. Did you think the things you learned in survival have prepared you for fatherhood in some way?
Maybe there was like a manhole explosion. I'm here in Brooklyn, and there was a manhole explosion a couple blocks away from me, which is like
Wow.
very funny to say. And power went out for essentially like 4 or 5 blocks in my neighborhood. And we have a fireplace. Like I'm not that bougie. For some reason, our apartment has a
You're like,
fireplace, and
"Fire making. It's
yeah,
happening."
like wife pregnant, like me provide, like that, like hyper masculine nonsense. But I have my coconut husk and my like flint and machete still from practicing Survivor and lit a fire and stuff. And I was like, okay, like maybe this like whole fatherhood thing and like taking care of people, whatever. Like I can do this thing.
It's gonna work out. Like, what kind of dad lies do you think you'll have to come up with? Like, because sometimes you're gonna be in alliance with your wife, sometimes you'll be in alliance with the baby. Like, any dad lies you think you'll have to come up with?
Oh, so many because I don't even know if it's, like, against my, like, why I think it's more one of my favorite professors in college used to joke, he's like, "Before Google came out, my dad just used to lie to me about literally everything." Like, I'd
Yeah,
ask him questions about current events and world events and stuff like that, and he would just lie, and I can't get away with that. And I think that, like, I'm gonna bring a little bit about that back. Like,
yeah.
no iPads, none of that, and, like, if you're asking me what's going on, whether it's politically, like, about life, birth of peace, whatever it is, I'm making shit up.
I'm telling you,
Like,
yes. Some of my favorite childhood memories, were dad lies, like when my dad told me it was illegal to drive barefoot, and it was not until I was, like, fully 30 years old, and I had stepped in dog shit, and I was like, "I cannot wear this shoe in the car," and I, like, called my dad to be like, "Can you come pick me up? Because I can't wear shoes right now, my shoe is wrecked, and it's illegal for me to drive with this." He's like, "Are you fully 30 years old? No, I told you that when you were, like, a teenager because it was, like, unsafe for you to be driving barefoot, but no, just drive your ass home." I was like, "Dad,
yeah,
lies,
liar.
lies." They had another good lie where, like, my mom would be like, "Stick your tongue out, and I'll know if you're lying." And I was, like, fully convinced, like, to this day that I would be like, "Is what?"
You got me.
The parent lies. It's gotta be
That's
a
like
fun part of the game.
that's like Rob on Traders the other day, like clocking Natalie on that lie. Because my whole shtick has always been in these games, like anybody who says they can lie, like cops will be like, "Oh, I can tell if people lie or whatever." My experience in life is like that's just not true. So you just have to get the information and then figure out if somebody's lying. But nobody can
Yeah.
tell. But that was pretty good. That was pretty good what he did.
I would be a terrible liar. I have nervous laughter. I would be out in the first round of the game, but I might be fan favorite or something, or Miss Congeniality maybe. But the second somebody asks me something, I'll just start giggling if I don't wanna answer, and I feel like that would be a pretty good tell. I'd have
I
to
don't
stay a
know.
faithful maybe, I don't know.
I think people would keep you around in both
Yeah,
Survivor and Traders just because you're likable.
just for
And
the
I think,
fun, for the
yeah,
vibes.
social. We're just having a good time.
So it is Thursday, and here on Under the Desk News, that's when we do good news only, hence the banana shirt. What's going good? There's so much bad out there, there's gotta be some good stuff.
Wow, I kinda spoiled this with the baby news, but everybody knew
Yep,
that. Everybody knew that.
baby news
Um,
is good news. Season
baby
50 is good news, airing in 2 weeks.
is great news, great news. We can go political. Can I
Yeah,
can I
let's
go
do it.
political? That judge, the Bush appointee who ruled in favor of Mark Kelly, was that today or was that
Yes.
yesterday? I'm very pumped up about that.
Yeah.
Upholding First Amendment rights is cool,
Yes, very
not
cool.
censoring people is cool. So maybe that's some good news. Trying to I'm trying to, like, talk about the positive stuff in politics
Yeah,
too now because I think I can get a little bit negative. So maybe that's my good news,
there you go.
a
ICE is
Republican
coming out of
appointed judge.
Minneapolis. That's
Yeah.
good news. We love that. Honey Boo Boo. from Toddlers and Tiaras, are you familiar with Honey Boo Boo from the
Of
reality
course.
show of
Of
like the
course I have
90s?
not.
She just got her nursing certificate, so we'll be talking about that. Congrats to Honey Boo Boo. I did have another question for your lawyer life. So often we hear about like a case has gone to the appellate court and like this particular court is like nicer to Republicans. This one tends to favor liberals. Like you worked in an appellate court before, right?
Yeah, when
Like
I
what's
was
it
on
like there? What do they do there?
yeah, fun stuff. Um, it's funny. It's actually the way you were talking about this. When I was on Survivor for the first time, I was wrapping up my clerkship on the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. So that's it. I was in Columbus, Ohio, with my judge. That court covers Kentucky, Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that court now is a little bit more conservative, just because Trump has appointed a lot of judges on that court. My wife actually clerked on the Ninth Circuit, which has historically had a more progressive bend, I should
Huh.
say. But I mean, it's cool because outside of like a district court clerkship, that sort of experience, you're in trial, you're doing things, you're kind of looking at things in real time. As an appellate clerk, you're working with your judge, you're looking at the entire docket of everything that's come from below, and you're looking at the law and you're trying to make this comprehensive decision to sort of make sure that things get right.
Mhm.
Um, Now, obviously, that gets a little muddied when you think about people coming in, not with agendas, but obviously, like you sort of mentioned, there are courts that are considered more favorable to conservatives. The
Yeah.
Fifth Circuit, Texas, for example, like
Mhm.
very sort of conservative heavy court, and you might see decisions that lean that way. Um, I found it to be a really cool sort of experience because I always thought that I was going to be a trial attorney. I essentially still am in a lot of ways a trial oriented attorney, but it was this really academic experience where I kind of slowed down and looked at everything. And you're also thinking about what are going to be all the implications that come from this case.
Mm.
You could be doing something that is in accordance with the law and also probably in accordance with your morals, but sometimes there are hydraulics, sometimes there are bounce backs in other areas of the law that you could never think about.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of this, I mean, for lack of a better term, this strategic thinking role where you're trying to get things right. You're trying to get things right while also not screwing up other aspects of the law and, thinking about what precedent's going to be moving forward. And
There's
this
a
is gosh, it
game.
was awesome.
It's Survivor, legal edition.
Literally. And like there's these appellate cases, they're decided by panels of three judges. So not only are you working with your judge, if my judge was phenomenal, I'm working with him to think about the best decision for this case, but then you're also you're negotiating with the other judges to think about who might have different perspectives on the law. You're thinking about
Mm.
how can I best sell our view of the law to them? Get one more
Mm.
person on board so we can get this vote correctly. It is surviving in a lot of ways. I
It's
never thought
that's
about
a
that.
really interesting, and I'm glad you were able to lay that out because I think the average person, myself included, when we hear like a certain court, we're like, oh, that's like one guy who maybe was Trump appointed who's
Hmm.
gonna make the decision. But it's good to hear that there's so many staff members and other lawyers who are trying to like interpret the law for their judge, working with other people, and that it's not some sort of like oligarchy over there, like some sort of like authoritarianism in the appellate court.
Yeah, and it's much different now. I mean, when I was clerking, I think the Sixth Circuit, I don't remember quite how many judges Trump had appointed to the Sixth Circuit by the time I got there, but there was a very recent sort of shift
Mm,
towards that. But now we're thinking about Trump appointed judges versus Bush appointed judges
right.
versus Obama. Like there's different layers within conservatism and progressivism and liberalism rather, that kind of were very interesting in that dynamic as well. It was a really cool time to be a clerk and to see the political landscape sort of shift in a lot of ways, not on the
Mm.
court, but like in a way in which judges were thinking in accordance with who they were sort of appointed by, for lack of a better term.
I feel like they have more power now than maybe they ever have, especially as Congress has like given so much of their power to the executive branch. It's like we keep saying we still have the courts, we still have the courts, it's still holding. But a lot of folks don't know a lawyer or a judge, so they're like, okay, every movie I've ever watched has told me that lawyers are not the good guys. Should I be
Yeah.
trusting them? Like, but there are a lot of good guy lawyers out there.
Yeah, and even there are, but it's I'm gonna be negative and cynical at
Yeah.
one point, and then positive on the back end. And that, like, you look at ICE, for example, and the Supreme Court has essentially hamstrung us from being able to hold federal enforcement officials accountable, right? Like Bivens is the doctrine that essentially allows you to sue and hold somebody accountable if a federal agent infringes upon your constitutional rights. But the Supreme Court in the past, since 2017 has slowly eroded that doctrine. So now when an ICE agent kills someone, there's essentially no legal remedy
Mm.
to hold them accountable. And that trickles down from the Supreme Court to the Sixth Circuit. So you could have a panel of three judges who clearly know that something was wrong, clearly know that a constitutional right was infringed, but the fact that it was just an ICE agent prevents anything from happening, which is very tough. Um, but I think that there's a lot of hope in that. You were sort of talking about Congress isn't holding Trump accountable. And I think
Right.
that the key issue in my mind right now is the midterms and sort of like using our voice. I think that's the key issue to kind of keep things in line because you're seeing that we get these victories, ICE leaving Minnesota. We're seeing that Bush appointed judges are upholding people, preventing Mark Kelly from getting demoted.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is because of public opinion. So where a lot of people sort of see hopelessness, I see a realm in which like all of the bad shit that's happening right now is causing people to speak up in a manner that we never have before. And even though the courts have hamstrung us, and even though Congress has been holding him accountable, maybe we really do have a wave that like actually affects some change in a couple months. I don't know. Very
I
convoluted, very
feel it.
long, but that's how I feel.
No, that's not very long. I think it's important that folks hear that and that they know that that's true, and that's why we show up every day is because people do keep showing up. I think we have a more civically engaged public than we ever have. The amount of protest that we see in the streets, like really well organized, peaceful protest neighborhoods, communities coming together is up 133% since 2017. Since Trump took office to 2025, up 133%. We're
Love
just
it.
seeing folks physically show up with their bodies and with their dollars to say, like, what I'm being fed through mainstream media, what I'm being fed even through social media and viral video is not what I will allow myself to believe is true of society. So I'm going to go to the No Kings protest and I'm going to see thousands of people there and I'm going to remember that my in real life matters so much more than what I'm fed online, which is always the
Yes.
most extreme.
Yeah, I actually I saw a really cool video that an older person was putting up and she was talking about the algorithm and
Mhm.
she is like sort of like the boomer influencer, but it was really kind of cool because she was talking about just the value of the repost button. She was like
Yes.
exactly what you were talking about, V. She was like essentially we keep on seeing these horrible things on our timeline because that's what we allow to sort of be cultivated there. But I'm
Yep.
surrounded by good people. And if
Mhm.
you're reposting content that's positive, if you're reposting content that's like showing people actually doing the work right now,
Mhm.
you're exposing other people in their algorithms who are kind of siloed to that good stuff. And I never thought about that. I thought this was just some little crappy button on Instagram that is just useless, but it's a complete way to change the discourse for other people in a way that's not like in your face and
Yeah.
also accessible to people who don't have platforms or who
Yeah.
aren't comfortable talking to a camera and things like that. Like just
Yeah.
showing others that there are good people doing good things out there, I think is important.
I totally agree, and it's given me, like, so much energy, especially, like, after the election, I was real bummed. I mean, we worked so hard, and it was like a death. It really felt like a death, and over the year, there's been so much growth, so much, like, resilience building. I know that's, like, the buzzword of the time, but I can genuinely see it happening and feel it, um, and I'm just so grateful to be where we are right now coming into the midterms and potentially down the line 2028. I think it matters so much less who the political personality is and what their values are or what people are starting to learn to ask questions about, and that thrills me. That makes me
Yes.
so happy because we used to think even after the first Trump situation, right? It was like, "Oh, it's gotta be a big personality. Okay, it's gotta be a Biden. It's gotta be like a Clinton. It's gotta be like somebody
Yep.
huge who's like part of the machine." And then it wasn't. Like it didn't work like that. And now when we're looking at candidates and they're seeing big personalities, like let's say like maybe like a Gavin Newsom is like a big personality or a really well-known person, I feel like the general public is still kind of waiting for Obama 2.0, like, who's the senator out there right now that's not flashy, but that has incredible values and discipline that will take us, back to a feeling of, like, safety and sovereignty, and so I'm excited to see who that person's gonna be in 28. I don't think we know yet.
Yeah, yeah. That's like kind of the cool thing. It's a surprise. I feel like I've been waiting for that for so long, and then
Yeah,
I'll name that person in my head and won't say it out loud, and that person maybe lets me down, or everybody doesn't click with them as much as I would like for them to. And I think right now I kind of just boil it down to I just want somebody who's going to fight
yeah,
and just call things out as it is. Be a little bit more plain. There's a lot of things wrong with Trumpism, but I think one thing for what like that people gravitate towards is just authenticity.
He made it
And
easy to understand even though he was lying. He made it easy to
yeah,
understand what he was selling sounded good. I knew he wasn't gonna do it, but he was
yeah,
saying the right things. But I think even if we look at Zoran Mamdani, nobody heard of him before this year, and now he's like
literally.
this major figure, and it was completely on who he is as a genuine person, the fact that he was showing up with common sense, popular, ideas. Folks said he couldn't do it, and he was like this little cutie cringe millennial, and it's a moment for us.
Yeah, yeah, and now we have, what is it? Bidets in the mayoral house. That's
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, he's out there shoveling snow, fixing bike lanes, maybe gonna get a pet, even though he's got allergies. I just think he's the cute. His wife is beautiful, photographed so well, really bringing class and art back to Gracie Mansion. I'm like, man, you are the package, Zoran Mamdani. He's cute with
We are
kids.
winning.
He's cute with dogs. He's adorable. Everybody loves him. Who would have thought? If you would have asked anybody before Zoran showed up on the scene what the mayor of New York has to be, they would have been like, oh, a tough, older white man who's into finance. No, this cutie little cringe millennial comes out here and is like
Yeah.
making everybody happy.
I didn't think about this, but you're right, and also millennials are so back. We were
Yeah,
so beat
we are
down.
back, baby.
We're so back. I feel like everybody was coming for us, and we're
Yeah.
starting to climb again. We're spreading our wings.
Yes. Well, because we had to have an in real life experience growing up. I think what's so unique about being a millennial is like you were both bullied in person and online. And I think it just gave us a tough kind of skin, but we were also such trained people pleasers that in a lot of ways it was like, thank you for that horrible comment. How can I help you? And now
Yeah.
people need help. And we're like, we could do it. It's like our
Yeah,
time.
and, like, we were it like, IRL experience and also bullied through every single type of social media. We had
I
we had
know.
MySpace. We
Yep.
we we had Yik Yak, if you
Yep.
remember. Like, we had everything. So,
Chat
the
rooms
resilience.
with
Yep.
predators in them.
Yes, yes, they are in the files,
Yes.
1000%.
Oh my god, the files. Have you been looking at any of this, like, legal curiosity-wise? Is there any angle that you see to the Epstein stuff that you're like, "I wish people would do more diligence on this or that?"
I the to the extent that I've looked at it, both Maggie and I, my wife, we have looked at it from the lens, like, the redactions just really upset me, just
Insane.
as a litigator. I think, my friend sent me as a side note, my friend sent me some application or web browser where you can just search things in the Epstein
Mhm.
files, which I think is a crazy. I don't think I can go down that rabbit hole, but, like, I digress. The
I don't
redactions are
recommend it.
really.
It's
No, yeah, yeah, and, like, I just wanna stay informed, but it's
yeah.
tough, but, the redactions are just so weird to me because, like, as a litigator, right, you know that there are redactions for very specific things:
Mhm,
protecting victims' information, protecting privileged information,
mhm,
confidential information for your companies, things like that, and when you redact things, you have to explain it. You can't
mhm,
just redact things and then produce them to the other side or to whoever it is, the congressional body,
mhm,
regulatory body, and say, "Hey, we're just blocking it out." And that's what's so weird about this because it's very clear in these documents that what's being blacked out is just not any of that. It's
mm-mm,
actually just like substantive information that is exactly at the heart of the inquiry.
mhm,
And it's just purely procedurally wrong and
mhm,
obviously ethically wrong. But like as the nerdy litigator in me is like even outside of the morals is just like this is completely inappropriate. And I think it's
mhm,
the exact example of how there's no accountability right now
mhm.
because of what's going on in Congress.
Well,
And
I was
I don't
just in
really know where you
DC.
get it.
Well, I was in DC for the last 2 days, and I DC is one of those cities, I'm sure you know, where, like, if you're physically in town, you're going to learn a lot in that amount of time because
Mhm.
a lot of people won't put it in writing, won't talk on the phone. But if you're meeting in person, they'll tell you things and they'll like speak more freely. So sometimes I go down there just to like kiki and learn things and like hang around. And the thing that I learned about the files, which is going to blow your mind and make sense to you as a litigator, just what you said, is that the DOJ did not do the redactions themselves. There were not lawyers doing the redactions. They handed the files to the FBI put every guy they had on it, mostly low-level desk or new agents, and so they were redacting just based on vibes, basically, and then they gave redacted copies to the DOJ. So not even Pam Bondi or anybody from her DOJ oversaw the process, gave directions. They were just kinda like, "Take out anything," we know they said, "Take out Trump," but they were like, "Take out anything that's sensitive." And so, you're a cop reading this, you're like, I guess that, like, I guess this, I guess that. But the way they can't unredact them, even like how now they're supposed to unredact a bit, we only got like 6 names and it's taking a long time, is because the DOJ only has redacted files. So they have to like reclaim the original files from the FBI. However, they kept them organized. Who knows what the guys over there did? I highly doubt that they were like very diligent about keeping everything in a catalog nicely. That's not their job. That's not their skill set. That's not what they were trained for. So they're trying to unredact them and they can't because the DOJ and the lawyers didn't do it. The cops did it.
Yeah, so I mean, that's insane.
It's fucked,
Um,
right? That's crazy.
yeah, it's fucking crazy. Two particular things come to mind. It's hilarious to me that people are saying we can't unredact them now, we can't get it back. I don't like to make conclusions, but I mean that is a very intentional decision to have a law
Sure.
enforcement officer do redactions instead of attorneys.
Yep.
That's crazy. The second thing is I used to do so before I became a music attorney, I did white collar criminal defense. I did a lot of work across from FBI agents where obviously federal prosecutors have to cooperate with
Mhm.
federal law enforcement like FBI agents to like bring their cases. As a kid, I kind of always thought, wow, the FBI, right?
Yeah.
Like these people are sophisticated. Like it's going to be insane. I'm about to sit in a room at SDNY across from an FBI agent. It's going to be so crazy.
Yeah.
They are just normal cops.
They're dudes. Yeah, they're just regular old cops.
Literally.
Yeah.
They are
They're
like
great people. Some of them are wonderful, very hardworking, very dedicated to the law people, but they're regular guys. They coach their kids'
literally
soccer teams and stuff. They're regular guys. Yeah.
taking sharpies to documents that are
Yeah.
very important to holding people accountable. It should have been lawyers. That's ridiculous to me. I cannot believe I haven't heard that, and that's wild. That's wild.
Telling you, you'll start to hear about it mostly because I'm gonna talk about it and more people will talk about it. But when I heard that, I was like, you know what? That makes perfect sense. And also, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you deal with this? And I just think it's so indicative of Pam Bondi's loyalty is truly only and exclusively to Donald Trump and his friends. It's not to the Constitution or the law. It's not even to herself anymore. Like she has lost herself genuinely to whatever it is she's doing.
Yeah, it's really scary, and that's why like when I try to talk to friends or I try to talk to people, I like talk frame things in democratic terms, just
Sure.
pure democracy. Because I feel even just the word MAGA, I don't even think we talk about how weird that is because we've never. And I mean, besides Reagan, but not in this manner. We've never really talked about a single politician as if they are the political party. We've never seen
Right.
sort of people view this people like you're not a Republican. You're a MAGA,
Trumpet.
right?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
MAGA guy. Yeah.
And I think that's so odd because it's so counterintuitive in relation to the discourse that conservatives have sort of propagated for so long. I'm not a
Mhm.
follower. I'm not a sheep. What you see bubbling up in Gen Z young men's algorithms right now, right?
Mhm.
Except you will lay down and do whatever for this one specific man, not the Republican Party. So then, even when you see the
Yeah.
Tim Scotts calling him racist or Marjorie Green Taylor
Mhm.
criticizing him, people turn on them. It's
Mhm.
crazy. And so the question that I kind of always ask people now is like, what is it that Donald Trump would do that would make you jump ship, right? Is
Mhm.
it racism? Is it sexism? Pedophilia? Like
Where's your line?
where is it? Because I at this point, like, and I think that's an honest question that you could ask
Yeah.
people, and I just don't know I don't know if I've ever gotten a legitimate question to that answer, right?
I think it forces people to face the truth and a little bit of the embarrassment that they were lied to and they went for it. There's some folks that won't be willing to do that. There's some folks that think that the strategy was to get the whole pie and then cut up the pieces of power within that pie, and Trump was just a
Hmm.
means to get the pie, but they can't lie about that now because they could still be destroyed by the pie maker or whatever. And I just to this point, that's why when I was watching Pam Bondi in the hearing, I was watching her and it's very easy to get upset and to be like, "Oh my god, she's lying and she's being awful," and the burn book and all of the spectacle of it. But I was like, this is a woman who has a portfolio of work and you can watch her on videotape over the last 20, 30 years. Like if you wanted to see how she was pre-Trump or whatever, she is a very disturbed person right now. She was screaming. She was very undisciplined. She had lowered herself to very juvenile, written for her insults. It's like she can't even think for
Yeah.
herself anymore. And I kind of want to be like, girl, like I don't care for Pam Bondi as a person. I don't respect her career necessarily, but like I can tell that something broke in you, and I think you should take a step back and get that figure it out because you're like a shell of a person and you're being really weird. Like,
Yeah,
you're super weird, man.
it's odd. It's really odd. I was I never thought I would say these words, but I was, for whatever reason, I think I don't know what it was, but a picture of Ted Cruz popped up on my feed while I
Yeah.
was walking home from the subway, and I was thinking about it, I was like, "Here is a man who" my favorite Ted Cruz story is him just, like, fleeing the state when, like,
Oh,
there
of
was a,
course.
emergency. But, like, here's a man who Trump just absolutely beat to a pulp
Dog
during that
walked. Yeah.
election season. I mean, pictures of his son online saying, "That's my ki," things like that, or I forget, but it was just
Saying his
so,
wife was
like,
ugly, like, straight up.
yeah, right? And it's like, I hate to keep on going back to it, but, like, isn't that's what, like, the conservative I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, Southwest
And they
Virginia.
were okay with it. They were like,
Yeah,
"It's okay." Yeah.
but it used to be, "If you talk about my wife or this or
Or their
like, all that
kids.
nonsense,"
Yeah.
and, like, and that's just gone out the window. JD Vance's tweets, it just clearly, like, something is going on. I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, I now like, what does he have over these
Well,
people?
so I was on the Audie Cornish show this morning, and one of the things that Pam Bondi said during the hearing is, "Oh, you have Trump derangement syndrome," to like Jamie Raskin or something. And she was like, "Trump derangement syndrome is what they have. Like they are deranged by Trumpism. They are deranged by the time they've spent at Mar-a-Lago and in his presence and in his swirl and under his influence. Trump derangement syndrome is literally what MAGA suffers from. No one on the left is deranged because of Trump. They're very like, this is weird and I don't like this, or I'm very upset about this or that. But that's so we're gonna try to flip the meaning of it because there's some like group psychosis that has happened with people like Marco Rubio. I'm like, are you on drugs? Like, what's going on with you, man? You've had this public career for all of this time. You were almost president once. Like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the rhetoric there is really important. It's just like, again, asking questions like, "What are you? Are you Republican? Are you
Yeah.
conservative? Or are
What
you
does that even
deranged
mean
for Trump?"
anymore? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are your values? What do you value? What are you willing to spend taxpayer dollars on? What matters to you? What do you want your daily life to feel like?" Taking away the symbols and whatnot, and then maybe we start from there.
Yeah, but also, like, you mentioned, like, some people wanted the pie and are afraid to change their mind, and I think that's the thing, going back to what I was talking about earlier, positive in terms of, like, people using their voice and seeing
Mhm.
positive change. Like, I legitimately I've known people over the course of the past 4 or 5 years, like, again, grew up in Southwest Virginia, very conservative area,
Mhm.
went to a very conservative undergrad, and I have close friends and family members who and, not necessarily family members, but one or two, but, like,
Yeah, well, we all
acquaintances
do.
who have,
All
yeah,
Trump supporters are evil except our own dad, right? If he is. Like,
yeah,
that guy
literally.
he's okay, or like our favorite cousin. We're like, he's just being weird right now, but when we think it's a stranger, we're willing to like be so much more cruel.
Yeah, yeah, my cousin could just be a goofy on Facebook, but,
Yeah.
like, I know people who have changed their mind, and I think
Yeah.
that there are people actively changing their mind right now, and I feel like it's tough because you have to hold people accountable, you have to draw lines on things, but also, like, I think there's a lot of space right now to be like, "If you're jumping ship now, like,
Cool. Yeah.
cool, do it, and, like,
That's how
proud of
I
you."
feel. I think if you're a politician, a businessman, or somebody who financially, greatly benefited from the marginalization of other people due to your alignment with Trump, then maybe we hold you accountable. But if you're like my cousin who got into MAGA because he was like playing too much Call of Duty, and you're like, I don't actually like this, I hate this. Like, okay, Brian, like that's okay. Why don't you just come back to Thanksgiving and be fun drunk uncle again instead of like fun, not fun MAGA drunk uncle? Like, I think there's a lot of room to accept people, like the public back, and maybe hold the heavy accountability for the people who, hold power. Because a lot of the folks who got wrapped up in Trump held no power throughout the entire thing, and are very much victims of him in many ways. Even though we want to be like, I told you so, I told you so.
Yeah, yeah, you wanna be like that so bad. That's, like,
Yeah,
one of my biggest mental conflicts is like, I do a lot of work around incarceration,
yeah.
and, like, that's, like, a big part of who I am and what I'm trying to do, at least right now, and, like, continue to sort of, like, preach about, like, second chances, and
Mhm.
maybe not even second chances. Obviously, there's just completely unreasonable contacts with the criminal legal system, but, but there are people who, like, like, that second chance idea and, like, morally what that means, I feel as if I've had to do some work to think
Yeah,
about that in the political landscape and what that means in terms of second chances, both morally and politically right now, and I'm just trying to be consistent. And it's tough because, again, like, you don't know if, like, there's a difference between being a pushover and accepting some things that may be harming people who are less in fortunate
Mhm,
circumstances than I am, but also
mhm,
like this is what's going to move the needle.
mhm.
Like this is what's going to ultimately move the needle is like being very clear that it's okay to change your mind, and I'm literally not going to hate you. Like I'm not
Yeah.
going to hate you for like those
But
past
it
views.
has
And
to be a real changing of your mind because if you're doing this silly, I'm changing my mind for a little bit, but I still have really unsavory opinions about trans people I'm never going to meet, then that doesn't actually count. You have to be actual all the way sorry. And there's so many
one
folks, it's
thousand
not
percent.
even just Trump, right? It's the orphaning of generations of people because their parents got poisoned by Fox News or got poisoned by Glenn Beck or the right wing, conservative radio sphere or the economic collapse that took them out and when they were, ending towards the end of their earning years and they're still struggling with and they want somebody to blame. And like I understand all of that. But like if you really are like, like with my own dad, right? I was like, he voted for Trump the first time, he did not vote for him the second time. And we had conversations about it. And I was like, Pop, like what actually kind of like helped you get off of him? Because all growing up, you hated that man. You thought he was like such a skis and then you voted for him. So like he was like, it was kind of like Jimmy Buffett concert. I don't know how to explain to you. It brought a lot of community together in 2016. It felt like it was an outsider guy. Like the people who were showing up, I kind of liked him better than the regular Republicans. Like it was kind of fun. And I'm like, okay, it was a cult and you had a little fun and that's great. He's like, "Yeah, but then I was just like pissed all the time. I was just angry all the time and I was like starting to think things that are obviously not true." My father loves me outrageously. Like
Yeah.
you never had a bad thought about a gay person in your life. I know you didn't. But you were like sort of willing to like be around people who did for a minute and it made you angry. And then he was like, fuck it, I'm just not gonna hang out with those people. I'm just not gonna do this anymore. And then he got better and it's not been a problem. But I feel like we need to maybe recognize that needed space for some folks where they're like, I don't know what happened. I got swept up and now I'm angry and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so real, especially with COVID in the backdrop. Like
Yeah.
I don't think enough people talked about and it sounds the loneliness epidemic.
The loneliness. Yeah. The isolation. A lot of people
Yeah.
moved from where they were living, either back in with their parents, felt like there was a regression.
And it's so easy to capitalize on those emotions. It's so much like I taught when I first got out of undergrad at an all boys boarding school in North Carolina, and then during the summers at a juvenile detention center. And the one
Wow.
thing at the boarding school, like seeing their algorithms in real time, a kid who is going through something, you're away from your parents, right? Then you want to be self-improvement. So you're going to work out and
Mhm.
then you're getting workout content. And then that workout content turns into some man who's probably bald telling you that you need to be strong, you need to be masculine,
Book
you need to be a
smacks.
lion,
Yeah.
literally. And then all of a sudden that sort of workout lifestyle content turns into this angry content. And then
Yeah.
that angry content sort of harnesses that emotion and it turns into political content. And now that anger also is equated with your political views. And it was terrifying I literally watched that in real time with some kids. And it just showed me the power of harnessing people's emotions and how
Mhm.
dangerous that is. And like, you can get wrapped up in it and it can happen to literally anybody, the smartest of people, the
Yeah.
most empathetic people. If you give somebody something to be angry or hateful about, and then you give them a political out that presumably solves that problem. Obviously, it doesn't. But if you
Mhm.
give them that combo, you're cooked,
Yeah.
right? And it's
And
hard to
you're
pull
the
them out.
moral authority. You have the high ground. You're a good person and they're demons and you're fighting for like some higher power thing. It was a crazy time. I mean, history will study it and I hope that we get a good rap in it when they do talk about it. You're like, there was this person who got under their desk because they were so scared of the news. There was this guy who was working as a lawyer and then decided to be a gamer because it was crazy town.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Had to go to an island. Had to go to an island to
had to
feel good.
go to an island because it was like the world doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I actually, my, so on 48, I remember making a joke actually, I won't tell that part, but when I got out the game, I was like very well thinking, both Trump and Biden, this is like, we're gearing up for the second election, right? We're
Yeah.
gearing up for the rematch. And I get out and the first thing, like before you get your phone backs and everything like that, we're at the airport in Fiji. So I had a night to celebrate, then we're in the airport. And the casting director says, so I have two very important pieces of news to tell you guys. The first is Donald Trump was shot. The
Oh,
second is Kamala Harris is running for president. And
wow.
I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? And then he goes, but there's more. He goes, Trump is alive. and he shows us the picture on his phone, and I'm like, holy crap, we
Yeah.
are fried. We are done.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and Biden stepped down, and
Yeah.
actually people are really excited about Kamala, so this is
Yeah.
gonna go very well. And that's where sort of people were trending at that time. It was sort of that like
Right.
wave of positivity around that. But like literally the world was burning down while I was in Fiji on an island playing the
And you
game.
had no idea.
No idea.
That is nuts. That must have been really crazy. How do you deal with not having your phone for all that time? Like, do you get to call your wife at all or anything, or is it's kind of like you just have to, you're off?
No, you're off. And at first I thought that would be, and it was in so many ways cathartic and like this insane experience
Yeah.
because you're just so you're just so kind of in the moment in what you're doing. And I mean, you're manic because you're thinking
Yeah.
people are trying to vote you out while building these incredible relationships and competing while you're covered in mud. But like, I think that flips sort of halfway through when you start to think about what's going on with your family. Like my parents are both a little bit older. I take
Yeah.
my brother and I take care of them. My wife, obviously we were engaged at the time, and kind of like you just start to get
Yeah.
rattled about what could be going on back home, and you have no opportunity to sort of contact them. So it's great, but it's like incredibly frightening and difficult
Mhm.
to deal with at the same time. But man, I mean, then you get your phone back and you get emails again and text messages, and you're like, send me back now.
Do you feel like you're less connected to your phone having gone through the experience of surviving for like 30 days without the phone, where you're like, I could live or die without it. I care less about being connected in that way than I did before the experience?
Yes and no,
Or
because
it
I
crept back
feel
up on you?
yeah, it does. It does just by virtue of just like being where we at right now. Like if you want to be informed, if you want to communicate with people, if
Yeah,
you
you're
want
being
to
on your
see what's
phone.
going on, you're kind of there. But I know at the end of the day that I could do without it, and it's like I'm comfortable with it. It just the nature of the work that I'm in.
It is
We're
what
all
it
at
is.
this point. It's tough. But I try to like I wake up, I try not to touch my phone for like 45 minutes before the day really gets going. And I just sort of implemented this practice over the last month and a half. And I really do feel like it's made a difference. So
Yeah.
we'll see if I keep it up.
I challenge myself to do that often, and I do greatly benefit from it, so folks who are listening, you should give that a try. Like, at least get up, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, then look at your phone. It just even if it's 10 minutes, it does make a big difference than rolling over and looking at it, but then I find myself, I fall back in and I'm on the phone all night, but
Yeah, here we are.
I could chat with you all day, forever and ever. I hope we get to chat again, but for folks who follow me, make sure you're following Kyle. You're newer to Substack, right?
I am new to Substack. This is
Okay.
awesome.
It's
I'm
so
new to
much fun,
Substack.
right? It's just
Yeah.
like immediate besties.
Yeah.
So follow Kyle. He's going to be talking a lot more about Survivor stuff, I'm sure, a lot more about legal opinions and just values and stuff that he cares about. And if you follow Kyle, follow me for good news and a soft place to land in a hard news cycle. I try to make things a little bit easier for folks to understand context without screaming at you like the mainstream media will. So, and then we'll have to do this again.
Thank you so much, B. This was absolutely awesome. I really enjoyed talking with
Was
you. Thank
this
you for
your
having me.
first Substack Live too?
First Substack live, first Substack experience. This is awesome. I
We're
need to get,
starting at the
I'm
top,
here now.
baby.
We're here. We're here now.
Cool. Well, we're connected and we'll be definitely talking more and I'll be watching this season to see how you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you're going to like it. You're going to like it more than Trader.
I think so. I think so. I'm like into games now. I've like had my reality TV time and I'm like, okay, I need something where there's like a little strategy or I feel like I'm figuring it out a little bit more. So I'm excited to see it. Plus, if I skip another season of Survivor, I think it's going to affect my friendship with Eliza Orlins and I cannot have that. So I got to get in.
No,
I'm going to
no.
be a super fan. I'm going to be ready. I'm going to get the bandana. Is that Survivor stuff behind you?
Yeah, yeah. We got to, let's see if I can move this camera. That's my bag.
Look at that
The
cool
book.
fish hook.
Yeah, yeah. That torch right there, that's from the first season. I can't wait to put up the stuff from season 50. I just can't give it away
Yeah,
yet.
not
So,
yet. Yeah.
we'll have to
Okay,
see.
well, when you can, we'll do a, like, get ready with me new wall with Kyle.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
Alright, good night, buddy. I'll see you later. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, me.